What's up, K-Divas, and welcome back to another video. This is one of possibly the highest requested videos of the year so far. In this video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how to grade patterns bigger or smaller. This is just how I have learned how to do it from doing internships and from creating my own sizes for my own brand, Kim Dave RTW. If you have any other techniques or ways that you figured out how to grade patterns, please leave a comment down below. I'm going to sort of show you how to do this on a basic bodice and a basic trouser, so you can work with those for reference and apply the same techniques on different pattern types. If you'd like to see how this is done, make sure to keep on watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Share it to anyone that you think will find it useful or inspiring to watch. And with that being said, let's get into this tutorial. In this video, I'm going to be working with my basic bodice pattern. This is my front pattern and it's my graded bodice, which I have available as a PDF on my online store, or you could create your own basic bodice pattern to work with. I'm also going to be showing how to grade a basic trouser, and I'm just going to be showing it down to about the knee, but the same rule applies for a full length trouser. Now I'm just going to go into trace off the patterns onto separate pattern paper so I can keep my original blocks and plan to reuse again in the future. I've traced off the front of my bodice. I've transferred the darts and the notches because they are very important and would help to make the grading process a lot easier, as you can see here. Now I'm going to set them aside. So the main bodice and the main trouser, I'm going to set them aside and focus on working with the traced off pieces here. Now you will need to add a little bit of extra paper around to allow you grade your patterns out or in. And for a basic bodice, you usually would grade sideways where your side seam is, especially if you don't have a seam on the center front. You grade sideways, down, up on the shoulder, and out on along the sleeve arm curve, and up on the center front or on the neckline. Now, starting with grading the bodice up, which is making it bigger, I'm going to be adding 1/2 inch along the side seam. That's the difference between one size to the next. Some people grade by 1 centimeter, some people grade by 1 inch, but from this, my size 10 to a size 12 is 1/2 inch difference along the side seam. So when you make a full pattern, is 1 each total when you add your left and your right. Now I'm just going in here to connect those points together. So I have my 1/2 inch extension and I'm extending the waistline sideways like so. I'm also going to be dropping the hemline down by 1/4 inch. It's not a lot, but believe me, by the time you drop the hemline by 1/4 inch, you lift the shoulder by 1/4 inch. That's 1/2 inch that you've added to the size. Now I'm going to be going to focus on the arm curve here. The arm curve, I'm going to be extending sideways along the notch point by about 0.4 inches or 1 centimeter roughly. That's a conversion. Once I have that marked in place, I'm going to go to the shoulder point and mark a 1/4 inch sideways towards the right hand side, and then mark a 1/4 inch upwards, because the bigger the pattern, it sort of shifts slightly towards the right. You will see this once I've joined all of the lines together. And I'm just going in here to join the side seam like so. It stays straight from size to size, and then it goes up towards that point that we have marked sideways along the notched areas. This I'm going to connect back to the top of the arm curve. So I have the arm curve for this bigger size, which is a UK size 12 in this case, since I started working from a UK size 10. Now I'm going to be lifting or raising the shoulder by 1/4 inch, and I'm just going in here to draw that point like so. But that shoulder is going to stop 1/4 inch before your previous size. Now this way, when you draw in the neckline for this your new bigger size, the neck is not too wide or it's not too small. You sort of maintain a, can I say, sensible width for the neckline. Now I'm going to be lifting the neckline on the center front edge by 1/4 inch, And halfway through that neckline, I am going to make the new neckline of this size that we are creating, which is a bigger size. The neckline is going to go through that middle point and go to that center front edge, so it has a shape that is still a round neckline, but it is higher by 1/4 of an inch in the center front and is wider by 1/4 of an inch along the shoulder. Now moving on to grading the bodice down, i.e. making a smaller pattern from our original bodice plan that we're working with. You essentially just reverse all that you've done. So along that center front neckline, I'm going to mark 1/4 inch downwards like so, and then I'm going to be marking 1/4 inch forward, because when you grade up you go sideways, but when you grade down you go forward for your neckline. And then I'm going to be dropping that shoulder by 1/4 of an inch like I am doing here. I'm going to connect the neckline for the new smaller size, and it will go through that middle point of the neckline as I'm doing here. I'm using different color of pen so it's not too confusing. The blue is the new small size that we're making. Now I'm going to be marking 0.4 inches inwards for the new arm curve, and that is roughly 1 centimeter. I'm going to be marking 1/2 inch inwards along the side seam because this is a smaller size that we're creating, and I'm just going in here to draw the new arm curve, which is 1/4 of an inch in on top of the shoulder, 0.4 inches in along the notch, and 1/2 inch in along the side. Now once I'm done drawing in that side curve, I'm going to go in to the side seam and just mark 1/2 inch all the way down. If you are grading by 1 centimeter and you have a pattern master and a set square, this process will be a lot quicker for you. But because I am considering those of my ladies who like to work in inches, it's just a lot easier to digest when I work in that dimension for anyone who prefers working in inches, but you can grade in centimeters if that's what you prefer. And I'm going to go to the hemline and raise it by 1/4 of an inch like we dropped it for 1/4 of an inch when we're grading out. Now that we're grading in or making a smaller size, we're going to be having the hemline higher compared to the original plan that we worked with. Now to move the dart, you essentially need to move the waist dart sideways to the right every other size. Now to move this, you essentially would mark the middle point of your original dart, and from there mark the dart width along the waistline, and you would mark however much you've moved or added along the side seam to the top and the bottom of your dart to create the new points for your darts like I'm doing here. Now this I do for every other size, so my size 6 and 8 would have one dart, 8 and 10 would have another dart, 12 and 14 will have another dart, so that way you don't need to move that for every single size that you create with a basic bodice, for example. Now this is the basic bodice front all done. It is not difficult to do, it's just very technical, and the measurements have to be exact because every extra centimeter, every extra inch actually counts. Now moving on to grading a basic trouser, I have just traced off the trouser up to like the knee point to show you guys how the grading works. And for the trouser, you grade along the hemline, the side, the waist, and you move the waist dart with every size that you grade out or in, or for every bigger or every smaller size that you create. Now I'm adding 1/2 inch along the side seam, so that's from the waistline all the way down to the hem, and I'm going to be connecting all these points together. So I have my new size with in this green pen for you guys to clearly see. I'm also going to extend the hip line across like so that's just there for my reference. Along the hemline, I'm going to be extending it downwards by 1/4 of an inch, and that I'm going to be connecting back to the side seam, and you wouldn't need to grade the inseam leg in this case here. Once I'm done doing that, I'm going to move my focus to the waistline, and I'm going to be moving the dart by 1/2 inch because that's how much we've graded this pattern out along the side. And I'm marking the middle point of the dart and marking the width of the dart from that middle point to draw in the dart for this new bigger size that I am creating With trouser, you do need to move the dart with every size that you create. For the new waistline, it is roughly 1/4 of an inch above the waistline of the original pattern that we worked with, and I'm just going to be lifting that ever so slightly just on the outer edge of the trouser pattern. Now this is it all done. The green line, like I mentioned earlier on, is bigger size that we have created, and you just essentially grade for trousers the outer edge of the waistline along the side seam on the outer leg and down the hemline. And like I mentioned, when you grade out or when you grade bigger, the pattern slightly shifts to the left for trousers. Now grading down, I'm going to be doing exact opposite of all I just did. I'm going to be marking 1/2 inch inwards, and I'm using my green pen so that lets us know which size we're working with, and I'm just connecting all of those lines together so I have the full side seam for this smaller size that we are creating here. After that, I'm going to go to the hemline and raise it by 1/4 of an inch upwards, and I'm going to draw in the hemline for the smaller size, connecting it back to the side seam of the blue size, or the smaller size in this case. Because we are creating a size that is smaller, we're going to be moving the dart towards the left. That I'm going to be marking the difference or whatever I have taken away from the side seam towards the left side of the pattern, and I'm going to be drawing in the new waist dart for the smaller size of the trouser. I'm also going to go in to draw in the waistline that would drop very slightly just at the outer edge, as I am doing in like so. This I'm going to be drawing with the help of my pattern master and my pen, so you guys get a better idea of what it looks like. This is the final front trouser pattern, all graded out or graded short in this case. The blue line is the smaller size, the black which is the original size, and the green which is the bigger size. I hope this video has been able to shed more light on how to grade patterns bigger or smaller. Essentially, you just continue for as many sizes that you want to create, and then you could feel free to make a size chart based on the measurements that your pattern has to give your customers or yourself clarity. For the basic bodice, however, the back neckline is slightly different compared to how we've done the front. It just goes up slightly on the shoulder edge compared to how we've done it for the front. However, the front and the back trouser is the same, and I hope you guys have found this video useful to watch. Please leave your feedback in the comment section down below. If you have any other suggestions for a possible future video, don't forget to share them as well. And until my next video, have a good morning, afternoon, and evening wherever you are. Bye.